You pride yourself on being the giver, the pleaser in your sexual relationship because it allows you to have a sense of control over the situation. When deep down inside, you want to be pleased, you want to receive the pleasure. However, it feels like a risk. And when you are the one that gives and pleases, what that is masking is your fear that while you want to be able to allow someone to please you, you're not sure if you have the strength to tell them no when you want to say no and speak up for whatever it is that you need in whatever moment, which makes complete sense when you have experienced a harm like childhood sexual abuse. We don't have so much the muscle sometimes, especially in adulthood, to say what we want and say what we need because oftentimes our sexual self advocacy is just not a skill that we have developed. And those risks of speaking up is a fear that comes with the fear of, is my partner going to be upset with me? Are they not going to, like me, love me anymore? Is speaking up gonna come with violence, even though you may not have a history of violence with your partner? Another reason is, what if we don't get back in the mood and then it's my fault that we can't get back in the mood and in the groove, which also is one of those things that we have to contend with in general with sex, that sometimes we get out of the mood and you don't get back into it, and that's okay. That's no one's fault. That is part of the process. We have to trust that just like you are on the dance floor and you're dancing with your partner, when the song changes, that can be a little awkward. You know what I'm saying? You're trying to find the rhythm of the new track that's playing, and then you trust that your partner is going to lead you and that you're going to follow, but also in that same vein that you trust that you can lead and that your partner will follow as well. And also, more than that, trust that you can feel the rhythm, you can hear the music, and that you can also lead. And that is something for me that I've had to learn throughout healing my sexual life. So, and some of the tips that I'm going to give you that has allowed me to become a better receiver in my sexual relationships, and not just giving, because a lot of that giving and a lot of that pleasing was also coming from perfectionism, was coming from this understanding that, well, if I am the perfect lover, which means that you don't really ask for much, right? You just kind of let them do what they want to you, and then you kind of go with it. Not to say that it's not pleasurable, but you become just a person that is there for another person's pleasure. And being in that is also a sense of control that we have, because you don't have to do nothing. You kind of keep the status quo and you don't shake things up because you fear of whatever retaliation may come with it, that oftentimes comes from the harm that we had and that we never addressed actually in the bedroom. So even though I did so much work in terms of therapy and nutrition and healing myself and all of these things emotionally and mentally, when it came to sex and some of my more intimate relationships, I was stunted in that way until I began to invest in my sexual healing as it pertains to directly my sexual intimacy and my pleasure. So some of the tips that I want to give are: one, not in any particular order; two, the only one that is in order that I say should be the first one that we should all do, that it's only the one about talking to yourself. And then also to consider that some of the things that I will share I used in different seasons of my life. What worked for one partner did not work for the other. What worked in one season of my healing did not work in another season of my healing. So sometimes you just have to accumulate what has worked so it can be in your toolbox, so that then you can introduce that and share that with whoever you're partnered with. So my first tip, which comes in, that you should always do first, is have the conversation with yourself. This conversation, one that you're bringing to your partner, is already intimidating for them as well, who's hearing it and who's on the receiving end. And what we sometimes don't realize, that our partners may also be survivors. So this conversation could be just as intimidating for them as well. So I just want you to keep that in mind, that being able to know what that conversation is for yourself first is imperative, because then sometimes we also assume that our partners should just know, or should just be there, should just be present. But we can be so disorienting sometimes because we don't know what's happening, but then we expect them to figure it out with us. And that could be also disorienting for them. So going in, knowing what it is that you want to communicate is important, because then you can say, meet me at point A, and then let's go to point B, point C together. It creates a shared reality. And it, for me, I've gone into the conversation without bullet points and a little list for myself, and I've gone without. And I have always found that the times that I have had the conversation with myself first, and I've had just kind of some bullet points that I know that I want to hit, allowed me to have the focus that I needed for the level of delicacy that the conversation required. So that's always the number one tip. Have the conversation with yourself, so that then you can bring somebody along in your and have a shared reality. The other tip that I would have, as it pertains to at least having the conversation first, is that not necessarily having it right after sex. Granted, sometimes you're in the mood, you're pillow talking, and you read the room. Is this the appropriate time to have this conversation with my partner about what I want more of, or that maybe the last time that, maybe this time that we were together, I wanted to speak up, but I didn't. Sometimes you may be just feeling too vulnerable to have that conversation. And it could be a little confusing. So it doesn't mean to not set a boundary, but I would encourage that to read the room, have a sense of how you're feeling, take a deep breath, and whatever you need to do to ground yourself, and proceed. Other than that, I would suggest not having the conversation in the bedroom, being naked, and right after sex. I find that just being clothed and not being somewhere where there's a bedroom, maybe at the couch, at a table, on a walk, that has allowed me to feel more fortified, more focused. It's allowed me to feel more grounded. I feel removed from the energy of the sexual energy, and it just has worked out better for me. And it's not as confusing. It hasn't been as confusing when I have had it right after. I've also had experiences where I've had the conversation right after, and we are pillow talking, and it's also fine as well. But in those instances, you really do have to read the room, and you also have to know what season and your relationship in as well. So there's a lot of nuance there, but in general, not in the bedroom, not naked, not right after. And with that, I want to say as well is that when you are in more practice, I would encourage to have more practice with your partner just about talking about the sexual interaction in general, like a couple of hours after, if it's not when you're pillow talking, the day after, what felt good, what didn't, what I want to do more, what we're not going to do again. um, Being more in practice with your partner about talking about sex and the sex that you're having, the kind of sex that you want to have, allows for you to, in the moments that you want to have more delicate conversations, especially when you are about to introduce this piece into your life where I want to receive more pleasure, but I'm having a hard time, and X, Y, and Z, and I wanna explore this more, and giving your reasons why, especially if you haven't disclosed or you do want to disclose, or if you have disclosed and maybe you're sensing that this season of your healing, it's really impacting your sex life. Having a culture of sexual conversations and talking about sex in your relationship in general, especially the kind of sex that you're already having, it allows for these topics to be introduced more organically. I'm not saying that it's any less difficult, but there's less resistance because there's already a flow, there's already emotion, there's already energy there that you can tap into and just introduce some of these topics. So tips that I have used that have helped me be more vocal, more present in my sexual relationships, and also bring my partner in as well, is having a safe word. A safe word, I mean, shout out to Kevin Hart, pineapples. It could be a very random word, necklace, water bottle, water. Because granted, no doesn't always translate well. And I know some people don't want to hear that. I'm so consent culture. Of course, you always want to be two consensual adults or two plus, whatever it is you want to, whatever it is that you want to be. Sorry, I got a little distracted from whatever it is that you want to be. No doesn't translate as well, because sometimes you're in the heat of the moment, you are in the mix, and you maybe have a playful banter, teasing kind of a sexual relationship, and you say no, and it doesn't always translate well. And there's some people though that are extremely sensitive to no. It's like if they hear no in any kind of capacity while we are in the bedroom or while we're in the mix of doing whatever it is in our get down, they are gonna stop. God bless them, of course, and we would love for everyone and everything to be like that, but sometimes you get caught up. Sometimes you're like no, but you really mean yes. And so having a safe word has been also essential for me at many points. So a safe word. Being able to tell my partner, another tip, being able to tell my partner beforehand that in this season of my sex life and in my healing, I'm gonna need a lot more check-ins, like, are you okay throughout, right? We don't necessarily have to stop, but are you okay? Just checking in with me. And also, when you yourself are aware of the signs of when you are about to maybe be a little bit disembodied, and you can also let your partner know, like, hey, if you feel me, if you feel like my eyes are kind of diverting away and that you are looking at me and my eyesight is elsewhere, that could be a sign that I'm not as connected. Subtle things like that you become aware of, you can help your partner also look out for that as well, and then they can feel like they are in support of you as well in this time. So that's something that has worked for me and that has helped me. So letting my partner know, I'm gonna need some extra check-ins. Can you just check in with me throughout a little bit more? Because some people don't ask, are you okay during sex? We going to town, you know what I'm saying? And it is what it is. So and that might not be something that you and your partner do already, so introducing that and saying like, hey, I might need some more check-ins than usual, or just can we start doing that? That is also helpful. being able to tell my partner, hey, I'm gonna need some aftercare after sex, and what those things may look like, and what it is that you need. Now, if you've never done this, this can be an exploratory place for you and your partner to play around with. And it's like, okay, we can try like hugging, we can try some warm tea, a bath, a massage, something, play around with these things, but letting them know that, part of our sex has to be aftercare as well. And even in between, when I stop, these are the things that we can use. I'm not, and letting them know I'm not really sure what it is that I'll need in that moment as I'm practicing to be more present, and I may need to stop. You can be honest, like, I don't know what I'll need, but can you, just having a little bit more grace for yourself and for them, that you can figure it out in the moment. And being open to the fact that you may not get back into the sexual intimacy as you know it, as intercourse, but you may be able to do other things, be intimate in other ways. So those are also things that you can explore as well. And I let me just look at my notes. I think so. Yeah, those are what I just wanted to double check that I have that I looked over all of the tips that I wanted to give to you. But what I also want to just leave here is that you, just because you get just because you get therapy, you go to coaching, you do somatic sex coaching, you do this or you do that, it doesn't always mean that you're programmed to the T. We're humans. There have been times, even after doing all the work that I've done and helping other people, that I've not said no, that I've not spoken up, that I've gone along with some sex that I was just like, I didn't really want to do all that. You know what I'm saying? We're human. But the thing is that as you continue to practice, right, you build the muscle. And I was able to have conversations after the fact, maybe not in the moment, right? But I was able to feel confident enough to say like, hey, X, Y, and Z, this happened. And I didn't feel good about it. And can we talk about it? And we talk, right? But in the moment, you have to give yourself the grace. You're not going to be a perfect sex partner. That was already something that we've tried to do, control, and it didn't work. It left us without our voices, and feeling like we didn't deserve pleasure or not receiving pleasure at all, and many other array of things, right? So it's not so much that you're going to be all of a sudden perfectly healed and that you're always going to speak up. No, it's a practice. Sometimes you will fumble. Sometimes your partner will fumble as well, because this may be new for them. You get what I'm saying? So giving yourself, your partner, your healing, your season that you're in for healing, some grace is paramount to this and to the tips that I'm giving you. And also knowing, once again, that what works in one season won't work in another. This kind of harm, childhood sexual abuse, is so layered that you're good, right? You're solid, integrating, solid. Things are peaceful. You're having good sex, and then something may happen completely unrelated to your sexual life, but related to the harm that impacts your sex life. And then all of a sudden you're like, fuck, here I am again. But what you'll notice is that when you start doing some of the practice and building of the skills, some of the work, as we call it, right, doing the work, you'll realize that the incident won't be as painful, won't be as disorienting. You won't be as you will have more compassion for yourself. Because you have more practice. You have your mindset shifts when you start approaching yourself in this way. You start giving yourself the care, the concern, and the skill building that you need in this area of your life, which is so important for us and is so pivotal in having a holistic approach to our healing in adulthood. So if you are wanting to understand a little bit more about what it means to have the conversation with yourself first, build these skills for yourself first, even if you are partnered or if you don't have a partner, and you're preparing yourself to be in a potential relationship, a sexual intimate relationship with someone, please consider investing some one-on-one time with me, so that I can support you. I'd be happy to support you, and so that you can have a more reciprocal sexual experience. My name is Betsy, and with love and with care, I'll talk to you soon. Bye.